Hey, what's up, guys? This is Alex here, and today we're going to be continuing on the four empty squares puzzles. So we're going to run through puzzles number 4 through 6, and then in the next episode, we'll conclude the four empty squares puzzle practice with the last four puzzles of the four empty squares one. So let's take a look and jump straight into puzzle number 4 today. So over here, it is black's turn to play. It's relatively easier and simpler because you only have two choices. So essentially, right now there isn't a pass or move, and there are four empty squares with black to begin with. So you would expect that naturally you don't gain parity per se. So over here, if you were to play the x square and let's say white just grabs the corner, it's a very straightforward loss because either way you lose parity and you lose quite a number of discs. A basic counting would tell you that you have 31 black discs, and if you play to the x square, you get 32, 33, and if white were to just simply take the corner, you basically, you know, just reduce back to 31 discs on the board. And regardless of where you play, thereafter, you would lose quite a number of discs. So let's say if you were to play black, white, and black, you would get 31, 2, 3, 4. So you do get 34, but after that, when white plays to a7 and flip 1, 2, 3, 4, uh, potentially, and also 1, 2, 3, you then definitely lose and have insufficient number of discs. So if you were to take the other one to a7, white would also, you would essentially get two more discs, so you get 33. But given that these are black, you would lose four discs in return. So 33 minus 4, you would at least lose with a margin of 6 discs with a total count of 29. So essentially, this endgame is about trying to understand something called the hyper even number theory or the Sui-Kuni trap. So named after Sui-Kuni Makoto. So there is a potential in kind of making an awkward shape for your opponent by playing b8 instead of b7. b7 just gives your opponent a very straightforward parity win by just grabbing the corner, and either one works for your opponent. So instead, you should actually start off with b8, which forms an odd square region, but it kind of forces your opponent to take the corner first. And after your opponent takes the corner, you realize you have sealed off this two square region that results in yourself passing a move, and thereafter your opponent has to take either one of those moves in order to give back parity to yourself. So if you were to just count it out, you would have 31 black discs, and if you were to play b8, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 additional discs, so that gives you a count of 38. When white takes 4 discs, you still have 34. And let's say if white were to just go for the straightforward edge move, you lose 3 more discs with 31, and you play the last move and flip 1 disc, you basically have 33, and you at least win by a margin of 2 discs. So let's go with b8 and see what white responds is. So the best white response is not the corner, but instead the computer thinks that it's b7 over here. So that's fine. So after that's been reduced to a two square region, all we have to do is just do a plus minus counting method and kind of figure out which one is better. So over here, if we were to start with b7, it will be plus 8 minus 8. So that gives you an aggregate of 0. And if you were to take the corner, it will be plus 3 minus 3. So the aggregate is also 0. So if you're short of time, go for the corner. You don't have to flip that many discs. So let's just go for that. And of course, a strategic or a more tactical way of thinking is that if your opponent has 5 seconds on the clock, then you could potentially go for the option with more discs to flip in a bid to actually make him time out. But yeah, I mean, if you counted and you're winning the game, so that's fine. You can just go for the simple approach, 33 to 31. So let's move on to puzzle number 2. I mean, puzzle number 5 in this case. So yeah, let's take a look. Okay, right now it's black's turn to play in this case. You have 3 options. So you can either sweep the entire first row across, and basically your opponent will take the corner. And then you could also sweep the diagonals here and give up the corner. And at the same time, your opponent has a white disc that is threatening to grab a corner, and you have the option to actually block the corner. So given that there are 4 empty squares on the board and it's black's turn to play, you already know that you don't have parity for sure. So over here, regardless of where white plays, you can still get either one of those moves and still flip the entire first row. So that would still give you quite a number of discs. Blocking this doesn't really help to kind of block out too many discs flip from white. So essentially what you should consider is the threat from white to actually chase down this corner. So if I were to actually look at this end game, I would actually consider what's the immediate threat but from my opponent. Since the top part doesn't really change much, I would consider the options below. So what I would want to do is consider defending the corner and defending this entire edge of 6 discs, or giving up the corner by playing a C square over here, and he still takes the corner, and these discs are actually reversible, this one especially, and you potentially give your opponent one whole row over here. So that is probably something that we want to avoid, because this gives you maybe +6 -7 in this region, and if you were to just take here +4 -1, it's a lot better. It gives you a total aggregate of +3 versus -1. So given that the top part doesn't really change much, you would probably think that, intuitively you want to consider the corner first. So let's say if you're in a tight situation and you have a very short amount of time, what you want to just quickly do is to count out the discs and just kind of figure out whether you have sufficient number of discs. So you have 33 black discs, and if you were to play the corner to defend the threat first, you have 34, 5, 6, 7, 8, 38 discs, and naturally you expect white to just jump in this order to actually slot in for the wedge for the last parity move. So you have 38 -1, 37, and basically if you play the last move over here, you gain another 6 more discs. So that gives you 43, and from white's last move, you -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So yeah, 43 -8, you get 35 discs. So that should be a very comfortable win. If you were to play a corner and let's say white were to play this move to the top at H1 instead, you actually gain the parity to the top region, and you take G1 in response, grab the entire edge. This is in fact the difference. You might actually win by a margin of 8 instead of 6. So let's go with H8 in this case, and white slots in. We grab the only option, and yeah, essentially we win by a score of 35-29. So that's puzzle number 5. Let's move on to puzzle number 6, which is the third and final puzzle for today's session. So let's take a quick look at this situation. It is white's turn to play over here. There are 3 options. So this endgame puzzle is a little bit more complicated. Probably you will need to count out the sequence entirely, because it is difficult to tell just offhand what kind of options that you can play. So let's take a look at the threat. So right now black has access to this kind of lone empty square over here. So you might want to consider, how you can access this area faster than black. So one option is to actually try to maybe take B1 over here. So if you take B1, you establish B7, which gives you access to this square, and at the same time, black doesn't have access to that square and still have to take one more move to chase down that square. So, but unfortunately right now it's a 4 empty squares puzzle, and it is white's turn to play. So it means that you might have had a skip of move somewhere earlier in the game. So you want to take note that you don't have parity and you have to overcome that situation. So let's count out the sequence. So naturally, if you were to play B1, black would chase down the access by grabbing the corner. And if black re-establishes B1 as black and chases the access over here, you would be forced to kind of defend it and just take this. And finally, black does get the last move over here in terms of parity. So if you just count out that sequence, you will probably figure out that that doesn't work. So let's say if it's white 32, let's count out 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. 40 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That gives us 34. And when we take this move, we take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 40. So finally, when white goes here, black goes here, white goes here, and finally black takes the last 8 discs over here. So white, black, and then white, and then finally black. So from 40 minus, sorry, 32 plus basically 8 over here, we have 40 minus 6, 34, 34 plus. So we actually get a draw from that situation if we were to play this, I guess. Let me just count it again. So yeah, this is kind of difficult to count. Let's count 32. That's 40 minus 6. That's 34. We do have plus 6 over here. We have 40. And we lose another 8 discs over here. So that, oh, we actually lose 9 discs over here because this has turned into white. So we lose 5 discs on this diagonal and we lose 4 discs over here. So it's actually a -2 sequence over here. And what you probably wouldn't want to do is just grab the corner, because if you grab the corner and black takes this disc, it's basically over by just natural parity. So if you were to take 32, 3, 4, 5, 6 and lose another 4 discs here, regardless of where you play, black takes a huge chunk of this, you would definitely lose the game. So this is probably the worst possible option, taking a corner in this situation. So the third option that we want to consider is actually to just kind of nullify parity, which is A2. So if we were to consider A2, we would also be removing this C2 disk that provides access to H7 over here. So you do notice that if you were to play this, all black can respond. Black wouldn't give up the corner and allow you to sweep the discs, because that wouldn't really achieve anything for him, and he wouldn't be able to regain that access down to H7. So naturally white, black, white, and that would be game over. So if we were to count out that sequence, we can have 32 plus 7 over here, 39, and then when black takes this, we lose 6 discs, so that's 33. And essentially we can grab the last move over here and we get 35, I guess. So let's go with this sequence for sure, because we've established that we have this control on this mini diagonal, and all we have to do is just take this, and that would be 35 for us. And by virtue of the rules of the game, actually, the empty square, once 2 consecutive passes have been made, the empty square actually gets awarded to the one with more discs on the board. So in this case, white has more discs, 35 to 28. So this empty square is actually accorded to the score of white, and you get a final score of 36 to 28. So that's a +6 result for you. So with that, we actually complete the 4 empty squares puzzles for today. And thank you very much for joining me as usual. And I'll see you at the next puzzle solving video. Okay, see you, bye.